So we've started the game. Now what? Let's look at the opening screen credits and options. So you've got sounds here you can turn off and on. These will be like sound effects in the game, like the aliens talking to you, mouse clicks, etc. So you can turn the music off, back on. Animations you can turn off or on. Animations are things like when the aliens are talking, colony ships are landing, planets are rotating. If you're really worried about memory use, you can turn these off. If you're playing on a very low memory computer, let's say you have only 1 gig of RAM, animations will be disabled. You won't be able to turn them on. Memory use is this little guy here at the bottom. It shows you how much memory you're using. If you don't care, you can turn it off, but it was very helpful for me for performance testing the game. If anyone is interested, these 4 numbers are 42 megs, the current amount of memory being used by the game, 119 megs, which is the current amount of memory allocated to the game by the operating system. So if you were to look at the task manager, it should be a little bit larger than this number. This number will never go down. The first number will go down sometimes when the game collects garbage and so forth. This can go up and down a lot. This last number is the maximum amount of memory that the system will allocate to the game before it tells the game you're using too much memory, so you need to crash because you're out of memory. The default for most operating systems is it will allow up to 1/4 of the total computer's memory to be allocated to a Java application. I have an 8 gigabyte laptop here, so it's saying 1.8 gigabytes. If you have a 2 gigabyte PC, this will be somewhere under 500 megabytes. If you have a 1 gigabyte PC, this will be 250 megabytes. And the game won't run. It needs at least 500 megabytes. But there are ways to raise the default above the 1/4 of your memory amount, and there will be special instructions for players who have less than 2 gigabytes of RAM to do that. And finally, this number here is the peak memory usage during the game. So that's this 42. At some point, it was up to 72 megs, and then it did some garbage collection. So let's see. There's the credit screen. I'm not going to reread this, but basically the 4 people involved right now are myself, Ray Fowler, the developer, the illustrator Peter Panav, music by F.A. Tozan, except for the screen, and the writer is Jeff Colucci, although I don't think there's going to be any of his work in the alpha. He's still working on things. So let's go back and let's do a new game. So as you can see here, there are 5 races currently available of the 10 from the original game, and all 10 races will be in the game when it's finished. There's the Alkari, their superior pilots. You can change their homeworld or leader name if you want to play them. The Barathi, they're ground fighters. Also, homeworld Ursa, leader name is Grunk. I think if you click on this multiple times, the leader name will cycle. Yes. There's the Meklar. These are a robotic race. They have enhanced factory controls. They're the Cylons. They are master researchers. And the Silicoids. They are immune to hostile environments. So let's go ahead and pick those guys. I like picking those because I don't have to worry about colonization text. They're great for demonstrating things. So let's hit next. Now you get to pick your galaxy. And there's several different options here. And for each option you select, you'll see how many empires will be in the map and how many total star systems there will be. So there's several shapes which won't affect either of those numbers. There's the rectangular shape, which is the only shape that was available in the original game. I could have left it at that, but I know people want more shapes. So there's a circular shape, a ring shape, as few systems, sometimes it's hard to see that. You can increase the size of the galaxy. Small is the smallest. You can go to average, large, huge, massive, insane, and ludicrous, which is even more insane than insane. So the original game, let me go back to small. The original game peaked at about 100 systems in the map. So I think that would equate to about a large map on this one once you started adding the other races. So let's go to the difficulty. Right now there's like 2 difficulty settings. This is temporary. Eventually difficulty will be more involved, right? But right now there's just 2 options. There's the AI only setting, which is the default, which means the AI will try to play your empire for you. And I probably should not have made that the default, but it's too late now. Average means you're going to play your race. I use the AI only a lot because it helps me play through games really fast, test a lot of the advanced technologies, and just generally see how well the AI is doing. The last option here are opponents, and you can have up to 4 opponents because there's 5 total races and you've picked one of them. So as you can see, as you pick more opponents, the number of systems increases. Now what that means is when you're selecting galaxy size, what you're really selecting is how much room do I think the average empire should have. If I think empires should all be packed closely, then pick small. If you want to have a lot of room before you run into other empires, pick huge. And that roominess you have will stay the same no matter how many opponents you pick, because it'll add more systems to take into account the new opponents. Okay? And the last thing here is this little multiplier button. You have to hover over it when you click it, but it'll highlight. And this is a great way for me to test large numbers of empires. So, for example, if I have 4 opponents, that means there's 5 total empires in the game. Me and the 4 opponents. And that's 240 systems. But if I say multiply by 2, it goes up to 10 empires. Now it's me and 9 opponents. And I can go up to 3. That's the most I'm allowing for the alpha. It would be trivial to add more, but I'm not doing that right now. The reason you would want to do that is if you want to test, let's say, on small with 15 empires, that's 96 stars, right? That's a lot of guys in there. What that means is each race will be used up to 3 times. There will be 3 versions of the Cylons, 3 versions of the Borathi, 3 versions of the Alkari, etc. And their names will be slightly different so that you'll know who you're talking to. You'll be able to distinguish between 2 empires of Cylons based on their names. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to because their illustrations would be the same. So finally, the last thing I want to go over here before we start a game is the memory limitations. What the game tries to do is it looks at the galaxy size and the number of opponents you have and the total systems, and it tries to make a best guess on, do you have enough memory to play this game? Not just to start the game and create the map, but to actually play through a game. So what will happen is, I have 8 gigs and I can exceed the limits here. If you have too much, if you don't have enough memory for this game, let me put some multipliers on here, you'll get this thing that says insufficient memory. So I cannot, with 8 gigs of RAM, safely play and complete a game with 7,700 stars. Assuming that algorithm I used to estimate that is correct. Of course, that doesn't take into account the fact that it would be very difficult to play a 5,000 or 6,000 star galaxy. And in fact, I would imagine that the next turn behavior would probably be really slow if you played 5,000 stars. I mean, you could probably play it and have enough memory, but right now some of the next turn processing hasn't been optimized, so it might be kind of tedious. So for the sake of the alpha, I would really recommend against playing really large maps, and just unless you're just curious, it's just going to be very, I think, difficult to play through some of those large maps. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick a small map with 4 opponents. That's 5 empires times 3. So that'll give me 15 empires on this map and 96 systems, and a small galaxy. And I'm going to not turn the AI on. I'm going to play average. I'm going to read that. And there's the game. So I'm going to cut the video here, and then I'll have another video explaining on how to proceed from this part using the main UI. Thanks for listening. Bye.